Somewhere, on an ordinary afternoon, a loan application is submitted. The paperwork looks right. The identification documents match the records. And then comes the moment every modern bank requires before it approves anything. A short video, just a few seconds. The applicant holds their face to the camera. They blink. They turn slightly. They follow the instructions on screen. The system watches. It checks the geometry of the face. It looks for tiny movements that only a living person would make. The system makes its decision. Approved. The money moves. The account is real. The name on the documents is real. But the face that just passed the camera test? That face belonged to someone who was never in the room. No alarm triggered. No flag appeared. No alert reached a human reviewer. The system recorded the check as successful because by every measure it had been given, it was. No one realized anything had gone wrong because nothing looked broken. To understand what happened, you need to understand what this system was designed for. Banks have always needed to verify who their customers are. This is not just a business preference. It is a legal requirement in most countries. The formal name for it is Know Your Customer, or KYC. For most of banking history, this meant walking into a branch. A teller looked at your face, compared it to a photo ID, and asked a few questions. It was slow, but it worked because a human being was involved. Then banking moved online. Customers applied for loans from their phones at midnight without ever speaking to another person. The old system became impractical, so banks built a new one. Think of it like an automated security guard at the front door of a building. Instead of checking your badge by hand, the guard has a camera, a database, and a set of rules. You walk up, the camera scans you. The rules decide whether you look like you belong. That automated guard became AI-powered video verification. The system would ask you to hold your face to your phone camera. It would compare your live image to your ID photo, and it would run what is called a liveness check, confirming that a real, living person was present, and not just a photograph held up to the lens. For millions of people opening accounts every day, this system worked exactly as designed. When banks built these systems, they made an assumption that felt entirely reasonable. The assumption was this: the camera is honest. What the system sees through the camera, they believed, is what is actually in front of the camera. If a face appears, it is a real face. If it moves, a living person is moving it. If the features match the ID photo, the same human being is present. Think of it this way. Imagine you ask a trusted colleague to stand at the door and confirm the identity of every visitor. They are excellent at comparing faces to ID photos. They are trained to spot masks and obvious disguises. But here is what you did not consider. What if someone replaced the window next to the door with a screen? And what if that screen showed a video of someone else, perfectly synchronized, perfectly lit, moving in all the right ways? Your colleague is still doing their job correctly. They are following every rule. The failure is not in your colleague. The failure is in the assumption that the window shows what is actually there. This is the assumption the banks made, not out of carelessness, but because, for years, fooling a camera convincingly enough to pass an AI verification check required expertise that very few people had, until it was not. The moment the assumption broke was not dramatic. It did not require sophisticated criminal infrastructure or a cutting-edge laboratory. It required a freely available software application called FaceSwap. FaceSwap is a desktop program that uses AI to overlay one person's face onto another person's face in real time in a live video stream. It was designed for entertainment. Hobbyists used it. Filmmakers experimented with it, but it was powerful. It was free, and anyone with a standard computer could run it in minutes. Here is what happened. In Indonesia, cybersecurity investigators at Group IB documented a case where attackers gathered photographs of real people, the kind that appear on social media or in public records, and loaded those photographs into FaceSwap software. They then connected their device to what is called a virtual camera. A virtual camera is exactly what it sounds like. Instead of using the phone's actual lens, the phone is tricked into believing a manipulated video stream is its camera. Think of it as replacing the window with a television set. The phone does not know the difference. The application opens. The verification check begins. But through the phone's camera, the system sees the stolen face, blinking, turning, following the instructions. The liveness check passes. The face matches the ID. The account is approved. The verification system did exactly what it was trained to do, and that is precisely the problem. The AI had been trained on millions of real verification attempts. It learned that a real face blinks at certain intervals. It learned how light falls across a real face. It learned to measure the distance between eyes, nose, and mouth. What it was never trained to do was question whether the camera itself could be trusted. There is a concept in AI security called an injection attack. This is not a computer virus in the traditional sense. An injection attack is when someone feeds a system false inputs from a point the system was not designed to defend. The system processes those inputs exactly as it would any other, because it has no way to know they are false. Imagine a fingerprint lock on a door. Now, imagine someone presses a precise printed copy of the correct fingerprint against the sensor. The lock does not fail. It works perfectly. But the input it received was not what it was built to receive. The verification AI was in exactly that position. In the Indonesian case, Group IB investigators found over 1,100 separate deepfake fraud attempts targeting a single bank's loan application process within roughly 3 months. The attackers were not making one careful attempt. They were running an operation, submitting false identities at scale, using tools that made the process fast, cheap, and repeatable. The system passed them again and again. The most unsettling part of this story is not that the system was bypassed, it is that there was no crash, no error message, no moment when the software paused and asked for human help. Each fraudulent verification was recorded in the system's logs as a success. Think about what that means. The bank's internal records showed thousands of completed identity checks, each marked passed, each appearing identical to a legitimate customer's check. An automated system has no uncertainty. It applies its rules and records its outcome. A fraudulent verification and a genuine one look identical in the log. Both say, passed. The system didn't crash. That's why it was dangerous. The discovery did not come from the AI. It came from humans examining data the AI had already processed and moved on from. The bank noticed anomalies, an unusually high concentration of loan applications in a short window, account patterns that did not reflect normal customer behavior. Group IB was called in. Their analysts looked not just at whether individual checks had passed, but at whether the broader picture made sense. They traced the operation to 45 specific mobile devices used to submit hundreds of fraudulent applications. They identified how the attackers had obtained the identity data they needed: stolen documents, scraped social media photos, personal data purchased from illegal online markets, the face-swapping tools, publicly available software, free to download. The investigation uncovered more than 1,100 deepfake attempts against the single institution, with potential financial exposure estimated at over $135 million. The attack was discovered not because the AI saw it, but because a broader pattern eventually became visible to human eyes. After the Indonesian investigation became public in late 2024, it did not stay a regional story for long. In December 2025, the MITRE Corporation, which maintains one of the world's most widely referenced databases of cybersecurity threats, published a formal case study on this exact class of attack. The research had been conducted by a biometric verification company called iProve, whose security team had replicated the face swap injection attack in a controlled test environment. MITRE's publication meant this vulnerability was now officially documented and categorized in the same framework used by governments, banks, and technology companies worldwide. The financial industry began updating its guidance. Discussions around a European standard, specifically addressing injection attacks against liveness detection systems, gained momentum. Some banks began adding steps to their verification process: device-level checks, behavioral signals, additional layers designed to confirm that the camera feed had not been manipulated. The tools used to conduct these attacks remain freely available. The vulnerability in most systems remains open. The lesson from this incident is not that AI is dangerous. It is something quieter. The KYC verification system was built to answer one question: does this face, presented to this camera, match this identity document? It was excellent at answering that question, but it was never built to ask, is this camera showing me something real? That is a different question, and no one thought to include it. What makes AI systems particularly vulnerable to this kind of gap is that they are consistent and fast. A human security guard who reviews 1,000 applications in a week might grow tired, uncertain, instinctively pause on something that feels slightly wrong. Those are vulnerabilities, but they are also moments when intuition can surface something unexpected. An AI system applies its rules the same way on attempt, number 1100 as it did on attempt number 1. AI doesn't know what it doesn't know, and it never thinks to ask. Somewhere right now, someone is opening a bank account on their phone. They hold their face to the camera. The system watches. It checks the geometry. It looks for movement. It makes its decision. For most people, this is routine, unremarkable, and it works. The people who build these systems are aware of the vulnerabilities. Work is underway. Standards are being updated. Tests are becoming more rigorous. But the tools that can be used against them are also improving, also available, also being tested. What this incident revealed is not that the technology failed. The technology did exactly what it was designed to do. What it revealed is that trust in any system carries an invisible assumption, an assumption about what the system can see, what it can understand, what it was built to defend against. The system didn't fail because it was broken. It failed because we trusted it to understand something it was never taught to question. That is worth sitting with.